can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. I can hear you very well as well.
Awesome.
How are you?
Doing all right. I live in Easy, Colorado. How are you doing?
Well, you know what? It's tragic, the numbers. And when people hear this in the news, but the truth is, I think, New Yorkers have done a good job in being smart, staying at home, riding it through. I know people are being a little bit impatient with the whole situation and with the good weather coming up, but I have a feeling that we have it under control, and chances are anything that can happen now, it will not be dramatic or tragic that much because we know what to do. So to me, that's the most important part right now. There's no fear involved anymore in that aspect.
The thing that I've only been to New York a couple times, but I just remember like walking on the street and like going, damn, there are just so many damn people here. There's really, I went to Tokyo many years ago,
Oh,
but even Tokyo, where I was at, wasn't so congested, so crowded. It's like, wow.
well, they're not here anymore. I mean, Times Square is dead empty at all times, and it's very different what we're used to seeing it. And honestly, I'm actually initially I was upset. I was like, oh my God, there is no New York without all this mess of people.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of enjoying it because you can still go out and be smart, wear a mask, and stay away from as many people as you can. But it's actually fun for now. But
Fair enough.
anyway, so first of all, thank you for joining me. I know you're definitely used to being on the other side of the conversation.
It's nice to be on the other side for a change, or at least I think it will be.
Yeah. Well, it should be, unless you hijack my conversation.
Yeah,
with you.
remind me if I start to hijack, because it wouldn't surprise me if I forget or something.
No,
I won't be offended.
yeah, no, the good thing, I have control of the mute button, so I can do that. But anyway, just to quickly let you know what this is all about, I explained it to you, but straight handball talk is a conversation between two people who at times either were teammates, partners, collaborators, or competitors in the world of handball in US. But ultimately, we are connected forever thanks to the Olympic sport of handball. And to me, that is a priceless reward that I get from putting my energy, my passion to do something that really makes me happy. So I know you remotely for over a decade, like 15 years, probably 13, 15 years. And this connection is forever, however you look at it.
Sure.
And so I appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate everything else that you do to be a voice of reason at times, most of the times, and then a voice of controversy at other times. And it's just necessary to have that part. So thank you for joining me in this conversation.
Sure.
Now, people know who you are, but I also want to explain to those who are going to listen to it. You started playing handball at the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1984. From 92, 93, you were also a member of the U.S. national team and participated in the World Championships in Sweden. You helped start two clubs. DC Diplomats, our rivals here, or they used to be, and Las Vegas Scorpions, which I don't know if they exist anymore, but that was
pretty much gone right now. But gone. Maybe a shell that if somebody's motivated could get it going again, but not much activity.
Yeah, it's tough when you have dedicated people to that. But on top of the things that you've done, you also run Team Handball news site, which is an independent news and commentary outlet for the Olympic sport of team handball. And just recently, you became a graduate of European Handball Managers Course, which I think you're the first American to do this. And it's that was last year during the EHF Champions League, I believe. So when I think about all this stuff, I'm like, damn, you made a fortune in the world of handball. Like, it just sounds so much stuff, man. Like, it's just amazing. It's if you just had to make money with all the things that you did.
It hasn't been profitable, but it's certainly been rewarding. And I like doing things about handball. That's just the way it is.
And that is true. And this is why this whole conversation, and jokes aside, obviously the passion and what you do for handball, it's to me, it's extremely valuable. It's always a good place to think what can we do later on in life. So first of all, tell me, how did you get hooked into handball personally?
Um, it's been a slow growth process, if you will. Um, basketball was my first love. I played a lot of sports. I played football, basketball, baseball. I was a high jumper, but basketball was my passion. I really loved basketball, and I tried out for basketball at the Air Force Academy. I just wasn't good enough. I also don't think I had. I came from a really small school, high school in Iowa,
Yeah.
and I never really played against too many people that were better than me. So um, that being said, I was never going to be a Division I basketball player at a high level. Just wasn't in the cards. And I saw handball being played. I didn't really kind of figure it out until uh, my sophomore year. I started playing intramurals, and I joined the club team when I was a senior, and I really fell in love with the game. And I got stationed in California,
Mm.
and I kept playing while I was in California. I used to, believe it or not, I used to drive 4 hours round trip to practice from Edwards Air Force Base to Camarillo, California, to play with the Condors. So really passionate about the sport, and played club handball there.
Yeah.
And it kind of a funny way with me is I kind of got drawn out of it. I got cut from an Olympic festival team
Mm.
in 1991, and I pretty much said, "Wow, I'm not even making one of the lower regional teams. My career is over." I got reassigned to Colorado Springs, not as an intent to go play with the residency program.
Yeah.
Just that's where they sent me, and I started practicing again with the national team because they needed bodies,
Yeah.
and um, ended up going to the World Championships and starting on defense. So, and I tell people, coaches don't know crap. All right, I got cut from a regional team. A year and a half later, I am starting at the World Championships. I'll be on defense. All right. I wasn't, I wasn't all world.
Yeah.
We weren't a great team. But that was such an eye-opening experience for me to do that. And that really, kind of upped my excitement level for the game. Anytime you represent your country and you play it on the world stage, that was something that really got me going. And it just, I kind of backed away a little bit after that. I helped start the team in DC, and then I got assigned to France.
Mm.
And oh my God, that was such an eye-opening experience for me too. That was in 2002, and I played 1 year at a very low level, a club in France, Levallois. It's a suburb of
Okay.
Paris.
Yeah.
And um, that was so eye-opening. Like all these teams in the Paris metro area, and I'm playing. It's basically the 6th or 7th division in France. They don't even really count down that
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, these club teams, they're probably better than everybody, but maybe for today's standards, I would say NYC, Nyack, and San Francisco. But the team I played on, these are guys just kind of goofing off,
Yeah.
better than any of the other clubs. But I think the other thing that opened my eyes to me was my first opportunity to see handball a lot on TV.
Yeah.
And I had no real conception of the clubs, the rivalries, the competition. And, that kind of drew me in even more, getting excited about the sport to go, wow, I'm a big handball fan. I didn't even know it. I've compared it to like the Chronicles of Narnia. You open
Oh,
the
yeah.
cupboard
Yeah,
and open the closet and you're going like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
all these clubs, teams, players. Oh, so that kind of gives you a sense of
Yeah.
how I
Well,
little by little. That's why I'm so passionate about it. It didn't happen boom overnight. It was a couple things that really drew me in.
no, of course. I mean, all of us have those little triggers that we'll never forget, because to me, it's playing a sport that competes with other mainstream sports, which we all grew up playing the other sports. To get into handball has to be some sort of a personal moment connection, whether it's a failure or someone pushed us, excited us, intrigued us to be a part of it. So, I mean, I think all of us who are in handball, I mean, we're just so passionate about this goddamn sport that's not doing anything for us in here, which is kind of drives me crazy, just as it drives you crazy in that sense. But you are one of the last few 50 Americans in the last since 91 and 93 to 2001 from the senior men that played in a world championship in a level that we haven't been there for so long. I mean, I want to know that experience, what you remember, the memories of you playing against two of the greatest Swedish national players, Bislander and Olsen, which now they are part sort of, I mean, Olsen at least. How was that experience?
That was a really great experience because we played in the Scandinavium in Gothenburg, and I was blown away by the crowds and how they were so into it. The fact they could make all those horn noises and whatnot, it was really eye opening. Um, I didn't really appreciate fully, I think, how good the players I was playing against. It wasn't like nowadays where you can say like you've seen them play on TV all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me a little bit is that athletically, even though Sweden was such a great handball team, those guys,
Yeah.
I did not feel that they were superior to us athletically. And I'm not talking so much me, I'm talking Derek Heath
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Matt Ryan and some of those other guys. But they just knew so much more about the game. We saw passes that we hadn't seen before. Um, it it was a real eye opener. But you play these guys and you say, you know what? If we could play these national teams day in, day out,
Yeah.
for a couple years, they wouldn't be whipping us by 16. I guarantee you. Would we have been as good as them? It's hard to say. We've never had that situation where we've had a lot of guys playing at a high level for an extended period of time.
Yeah. I mean, having that privilege, to me, anyone who plays at that level with those guys, it's unforgettable. One, and two, to respond to what you said about European handball players definitely are not more athletic than American athletes. That is, we all know that. I think they know that too. But handball as a sport is not only about strength and being fast and whatnot. It's a completely different culture, and that's one thing that we need to get back into, making as a culture in our country, and not just finding athletes that fit that criteria. Now, I just want to get straight into our straight handball talk and get into some serious stuff. And that is, someone with a resume like yours and a background like yours, why are you not involved in the official business of USA Team Handball?
Well, I, maybe I'm too controversial. I don't know 100% for sure. I've asked people, and I have not gotten a straight answer.
Hmm.
Um, I think I've always been somebody willing to speak out when I see something that, hey, I don't think this is the right thing to do. I think maybe we need to look at some other possibilities. We need to do a full-on comparison of what we're doing. Um, I'd like to think that we're a situation where that type of feedback and opinion is shared in a semi-professional setting, and different ideas are compared, and then they're selected. And I guess that's a little bit, it's always been a little bit frustrating to me. I was in the Air Force uh, for 20 years, and the lowest ranking guy, could speak up and state his opinion. At the end of the day, the general made the call,
Yeah.
but there was debate, there was discussion, and merits were properly considered, and then a decision was made, and then we all moved forward. And I don't think the process has always been followed real well with USA Team Handball. And I think if you are outspoken, that can be detrimental to future activities.
Well, and yes, you're right. And I personally hate that kind of attitude because, like you said, hearing other people's opinions, and especially those who were actually putting, like you. I mean, I don't want to dwell in details what you've done with your Team Handball News site, because anyone wants to know methods, plans, processes, what needs to be done or should be done or has been done. It's on your Team Handball News site, which is full of information and detail. So, but all those opinions are based on credibility, because when you understand, first of all, the competition environment that has been in the United States for decades. You have put effort into it, and you bring, I believe, a lot of critical and positive information that I think you're giving a lot of information for free. All they have to do is get on that website and just do some things. So, I mean, in my opinion, I believe a lot your approach, because I don't mind being controversial, and if controversial is speaking the truth and being honest, I will always do that. But I also personally, I like to take action on my own and not depend on anyone else, which I've never depended on USA Team Handball, and I've always pushed that. However, in your case, I always question, like, why the hell, with all this information, you're not there? Why at one point you haven't been there, and at least give you a chance to, whatever you said, to actually implement what you said, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating to me. And there have been times where I've been kind of brought in a little bit and been able to give my opinion, but it's always been kind of closed off at one point or the other. I mean, I'll make no secret, I've applied for the CEO job 4 times in the last 12 years. I only got to the interview stage once. That was back in 2012, but I wasn't one of the final 2 candidates. So, I was talking to my little brother. He's like saying, John, I think this organization is telling you that your services are not desired. My brother, he's not a big handball guy. I mean, he knows what it is, but he knows who I am. He knows I'm a guy that is outspoken.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating, because I don't think people have seen me too often in a professional environment, in a professional setting, where you're working in a working group or in a committee, and you're trying. That was my job for 26 years. Yeah. I used to stand up and facilitate meetings with people on both sides.
Yeah.
I would have the users of the military equipment, mad at me, and I would have the contractors that we were buying the equipment mad at me.
Yeah.
And I would eventually, work to get everybody together on the same page. And nobody was ever 100% happy. But you go through a process, and you come out with a solution that everybody goes, oh, okay, I see why we're doing that. I wish this piece of equipment we were buying was a little bit more capable, but I also know it's going to cost a lot of money if we do that, and we're not going to get it for another 5 years. So all right, Ryan, you're doing a good job. All right. And I like to see the same sort of thing happen with handball.
Yeah.
But for whatever reasons, it just never has gotten to that stage. Yeah, maybe it will. You know, I've seen some great things. I see where Barry and his team have been reaching out to some clubs and getting their viewpoints and opinions. I'm available. You got any question on anything, I will give you the pros and cons and the what for,
Yeah.
without even giving you the answer. I'll just frame the answer for you if
Yeah.
anybody's interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the consulting perspective, again, consultants are those who build experience, knowledge with time and history. I think because sometimes, brings me back to the next question that I want to talk about is about you and I have seen many leadership changes within USA Team Handball. I've been for the 13 years, and you've seen it even further down. But it always comes down to enthusiasm, great innovation ideas of doing something great, and we hear them all, and we all want them to happen. I want them to happen, whatever great ideas people have. But sometimes these new leaderships come in and they tend to forget the history, and they tend to forget those who have been a part of it, that no information. All you can do is information will be shared, and more importantly, not just share, but you need to reach out and work really hard with these people who have been a part of it, because only they can do is help you out. So what do you think? I know Barry has done a great deal of things in moving pieces around, but in your opinion, from the practical and tangible aspect of it, what will be considered truly a successful outcome for this new leadership? Because always they come and go and there are nothing to show.
Well, you know that's why you have a process. That's a big question, and one person should not come up with the answer to that. That actually should be the board. The board of directors that should identify what the priorities are, what our goals and objectives are, and at a broad level. You don't want to get too solution specific,
Yeah.
but you want to give some broad goals and objectives that you can work towards. That being said, I did help a little bit with the drafting of the strategic plan. It's not a perfect document, but I'm really glad that we have one now.
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be a little bit more prioritization as to what we want to get done, because we don't have enough resources to do everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't select, be very clear in your selection of what's the priority. It's not going to, you may have resources directed somewhere else rather than to that priority, or one or two priorities.
Mm.
And so you always have the conflict of what do you want to do with your national teams, and what do you want to do with your grassroots. And as long as we are a cash-strapped organization, there's always going to be conflict with those two.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of deviate from there. I mean, you could say, do we want to focus on our men's team or our women's team? How soon do we want to be top notch?
Yeah.
Do we want to make a big play on beach handball? You could make a case that beach handball should be our priority, because we could be much more competitive much quicker. Not that I'm saying we should do that, but I could make a case for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have all kinds of decisions on how you want to spend resources and man hours for grassroots. Do you want to focus on youth development? Do you want to focus on collegiate clubs? Do you want to focus on the at-large clubs like New York City and Chicago Inter? And yes, you want to do everything, but unless you have all the resources in the world, you have to prioritize what you want done, or you have to say, I would make a big push for collegiate development. Just because I've looked at this a lot. I think it's our sweet spot, the biggest bang for the buck, whatever analogy you want to use, in terms of growing the game fairly quickly and having a product that I think could be commercially viable. That's my opinion on that. But
Yeah.
these are the sorts of things that you have to hash it out with a bunch of people, and you have to present the information to the decision makers so that they can look at all the data and maybe come to the same conclusion that I have,
Yeah.
but maybe they bring in something else different that says no, we need to really go gung-ho for the youth development,
Yeah.
because that's where we're going to get the players to go into college.
Yeah.
It's not a simple answer. It's not a simple process.
No, it's not. And because we're so big as a country, and because we lack cash to do any of these things properly, I think, to me, that's the scariest part. But when I actually read just your recent commentary or story on your website about what was going on with the strategic plan, the big ideas about finding 200 American players, shipping them to Europe for a few years and making them better players, and then start a professional league where $3 million, $3 to $5 million per franchise. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, holy cow. I mean, who is thinking? I mean, it's so good to think that big, right? But at the same time, I'm thinking, so who are these 200 people, right? Where are you going to get them? Who's going to pay for their trip over there? I mean, they need to learn a different language. Are they going to play together? There's so many problems, so much money involved only in that part of it. And then secondly, I think about it, who is going to invest $3 million in new franchises, I'm assuming, because if someone is doing this, I'm going to have control. But if I had $3 million as a club, I will guarantee you by 2028, I will have probably 20,000 people playing handball in New York City alone, from schools, from adults, from whatever. But who's going to give $3 million? So
Yeah.
I read it. I was just thinking about that.
It raises a lot of questions. And just to clarify, that's not the strategic plan. That's a plan that Barry Siff and some other folks have cooked up. And it can fit into certain aspects of the strategic plan for sure. I mean, if you have a professional league, hey, you're gonna have some good players to put on your national team. There's no denying that. It's more of an action plan. It's a solution towards some goals and objectives that we're looking at. But you're absolutely right. It brings up so many questions, and it's going to take a lot of resources.
Yes.
The thing is, the IHF has seen this plan. John Briho with formerly of the EHF, now working for the IHF, has seen this plan. Hans Vesper, he's a CEO of one of the largest companies in the U.S. These are some smart people. You and I can go, whoa, there's got to be something missing here. But we also have to think about, this isn't just two guys in their basement coming up with a plan. Well, or more accurately, some reporter, which we'll see at the 2020 Olympics, who's going to write a story about handball and what needs to be done to.
Yeah.
We've had one of those stories every year since. I've seen them since 2000. I'm sure you go back even further, and it's the same theme every time. We can take our players from other sports and teach them and turn them into world champs.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously, all of us would love to have a pro league in the United States, and I think it's obviously doable in a smaller scale, start like a frisbee championship that you pay people a little bit. I mean, even we can make a professional league with paying people very little bit, of have no expenses, and start from what we have. But build a league with $3 million franchise, and you have 8-10 clubs. We're talking about $30 million, and I'm sure there are people out there with all that money. But I'm sure they are very smart where they want to put their money. And if somebody doesn't tell the truth of what the system is, like what has been in many years, and these are the product of handball are the clubs currently in US. And from what, 600 players, 90% are foreigners. So we have to look at all these little things.
Yeah, hey, if you look at, I always look at rugby because in investigating other sports, it's the closest to handball in terms of being a niche sport, brought in mostly by foreigners originally, and it's grown. It's they have 127 times the membership
Yeah.
that we have. And they have, they've built it into college clubs. They've got youth programs now. They've got at-large clubs, kind of like NYC. But they have started a professional league, and they had a full season last year. They had an abbreviated season, this year. How are they paying for that? Well, when you have 127 times the membership,
Yeah.
you're going to have some guys that made it good, that love rugby, and they're going to be willing to, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay for this, and it's just kind of like you and I. We love handball, but we're not multimillionaires that can start a club team. But if there was 100 times us,
yeah,
maybe there'd be a beanie guy that started a company. He's got 100 people working for him, and he's raking in the dough, and he's looking for something to do with that money. Yeah. We don't have that base yet. That's why I'm kind of like scratching my head a little bit, saying, how will this work?
Yeah.
And I also agree with the idea that here's one thing I do know, and I'm going to be having a series on this. I know the closest possibility is indoor soccer.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've ever been to an indoor soccer game.
Yeah, futsal.
No, not futsal. Oh. We Americans, we always have to come up with a better idea. This is the one where it bounces off the wall.
I remember this. This was a while ago. Yeah.
It still exists. It still exists.
Okay.
They even have a minor league club in Colorado Springs, and I went to the game just to kind of check it out to see how it could, because it's a smaller sport. Here's you, a guy that probably knows 10 times more about soccer than I do. Wasn't aware that it was a sport here in the U.S., but it's professional. I don't know how fully professional, whether it's semi-pro. They play typically in smaller arenas, but I went to this match, and I tried to envision. Okay, yeah, I could put a handball court down on this indoor soccer court. I could put the stands closer in. I had a great time. They had like this little brew pub, and I was above it, and I had like a big mug of IPA, and I don't even like soccer, but I was like, oh yeah, this would be something. I paid, I think, $10 for a ticket.
Yeah.
And granted, this was minor league soccer. Anyway, I guess I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out how this could be done, and whether it could be done. Bottom line, it'll take a lot of cash.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I personally believe that anything can be done. Now, if they know someone is putting money into it, sure, it is possible. I mean, heck, US has a slow pitch adult softball championships on ESPN. I mean, think about that. I think it's anything is possible with the right financial support. And of course, if you utilize what it's already out there and not completely reinvent the wheel, because handball is handball.
Another aspect you'd have to consider is, if it's a pro league that's not in the purview of USA Team Handball, that would have to be a separate organization. Now, obviously, there'd be some level of coordination. They talk about these tryouts and, finding the 200 players to go to Europe, which is a whole other, big thing. But that would obviously, in my mind, would involve some type of partnership with the pro league USA Team Handball, and maybe the European leagues will be willing to help pay for that too. They're already paying for a few players that we have, or
Sure.
helping with that anyway. But we're still talking a major, major effort. And I guess the concern I'm getting to is, even if it's not a USA Team Handball function, folks working for USA Team Handball will be working that.
Yeah.
They will be spending time thinking about that. They will be setting up tryouts. They will be doing all of the ancillary things associated with that. That stuff that could be done on something grassroots.
Yeah.
So that's where you have that big trade-off I talked about between grassroots and national teams. And then within those two buckets, those two bins, if you will,
Yeah.
you've got to figure out how to spend the money in those areas.
Yeah. Well, look, I am all up for it, whatever goes on, and I think it would be exciting. It would be really exciting to do, especially the pro league. However it's done, I don't care. Just to give it a shot, and whoever wants to invest money, it would be phenomenal. And we both know, and you are a big proponent of it. As much as we can get the sport on TV, the faster and the easier is to get people familiar with it, get excited about it, and of course get the younger generation to want to try it, because ultimately we're still trying to make a national team that's going to be competitive for 2028, which would be perfect. So,
Yeah.
but again, when it comes to TV, you and me and all the other handball fans still get to watch all the great games that happen in Europe, because one, EHFCL.com has the greatest broadcasting, high quality. Sometimes you can watch it live, but if you wait 24 hours later, you will watch all the games. Then you can pay little money to watch the German leagues. And of course, we have BN for Champions Leagues in US. Um, so I don't know the numbers, how many people watch this stuff, but I know there are around 120 million households in US that have a TV. And they say that if you have captured 0.55% of that, they will keep the sport on TV. So 0.5% of all that is, I think it comes up to what, 300,000 or 600,000, 300,000 people. Can we have 300,000 people watch our games?
So there was a website that used to publish the weekly sports watching, and down there at the very, very, very bottom was the BN Sports Champions League matches.
Hmm.
I mean, I can't remember, there was something else also very, very small, but I'm telling you, right at the very, very bottom. Now, there's some reasons for that. BN Sports isn't carried in as many households.
Yeah.
I don't think they have done a very good job of promoting it even within their small network. But part of that is, it's not so much just getting on TV; it's getting on the right network.
Yeah.
And BN Sports clearly has not been the right network for us for the last 7-8 years. Whoever sees this, there's probably have to be, what's BN Sports? It has been a long-standing frustration. I've talked to the BN Sports guys. I've provided their contact information on a silver platter to USA Team Handball a couple times, and for whatever reason, that those connections have never been made. I mean, I've said, why not a banner at national championships? BN Sports, watch handball on BN Sports. And I don't think it would have been a mutual beneficial
Sure.
type thing. But for whatever reason, that wasn't done. Now that contract's running out
Yeah.
this summer. So there's a really good chance that we're going to get on with a better network. And if there's one thing I will take some credit for, is I have told every European that will listen to me. and I've talked to them. I've talked to the German Bundesliga CEO, the French league CEO. the EHF folks, even the CHA League. I've told each and every one of them they've got to make it a priority to get handball on a better network in the U.S. And I think they are listening to me. Now, have they been listening to other people? Am I going to pat myself on the back and say, I made that happen?
Yeah.
No, I think it's been a group effort, but I tell you, that's something that I have really emphasized. Oh, gonna have to shut my window here.
Okay.
Oh, I'm weak. No, the trash people are coming. That will be very loud here shortly. So it to me, it's a big factor for us to get on the best network possible. And I actually got a pretty high level guy at ESPN to listen to me. That was maybe the best thing that's happened to me all year, is a high level guy at ESPN. Followed me on Twitter, and I was able to contact him and contact some people in Europe, so that ESPN will be a part of the discussion for the new EHF contract, which is a 10-year contract, groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And with parts of it that emphasize growing the market in the U.S.
Sure.
So this is something that definitely could happen. And to me, even if it's on the OTT, the ESPN Plus. Do you have ESPN Plus?
I do.
All right. Doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to see a little handball ball icon, to click on that and to say, oh, and then click on that, and you got EHF, HBL, LNH, and the thing I've told them, you don't have to put every game on. Don't get me wrong, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But maybe one game a week.
Yeah.
If Kiel and Flensburg play in the HBL, let's see that match. Yeah. If Montpellier and Paris Saint-Germain are playing, put that match on TV.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess you know more about this stuff, but and I'm very curious to know, what are the financial agreements in these deals? Like how big are we talking about?
Well, so that was the problem historically, is a lot of the Europeans, they would look at the U.S. market and they would say, like, the U.S. market, whoa, we're going to get a big fat paycheck for this. When the reality is, probably next to nothing, maybe even nothing. I mean, if you really want to push it, maybe you should even pay to get the Champions League on a major network. And that just was such craziness in the European mindset, that discussions never even took place, because they wanted to get paid for their product. And you and I understand this is great stuff. You should be getting paid for it. But in order to build your market up, you're probably going to have to give it away for a few years. Yeah. But the key is, if you look at the English Premier League, and how their contract has grown in the last 10 years from next to nothing, you can paint a good picture of sacrificing current revenue for future profit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what BN did, but I don't think they did any research behind it. I mean, they just bought anything that felt it was.
Well, this is what happened with BN Sports. This is what happened with BN Sports. My understanding, and I can't confirm this. So BN Sports they're big in France.
Yeah.
And they're big in the Middle East and North Africa. Yeah. And so when they bought the Champions League for the Middle East and North Africa and France, it was probably a 10-second commercial where they said, or a 10-second comment that says, "Oh, we'll throw in US too."
We'll do this one too.
That's what I've been told secondhand is what happened. But because the other problem that happens is, it takes work to talk to ESPN, to talk to Fox Sports, to talk to NBC Olympic Channel, to talk to these people, and they're going to get nothing for it. Yeah. And when they sold the rights to third parties, the third party didn't sign up to like, I'm going to spend a lot of time and energy getting handball on TV in the United States and we're not going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
No, they spend all their time and energy selling the rights in Germany, France, and the Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Because that's where the money is for them.
Yeah. I think what we should be doing is obviously first create a product that fits the ESPN, which is like a dart championship where they have 2 million people watching it. And we should do handball that in combination with Nathan's eating hot dog contest, every time a 7-meter guy misses a penalty, his team has to eat 2 hot dogs or the other way around if he scores. So I think, unfortunately, our game of handball, as pure as it is, as great as it is to watch, needs something, I believe, even though I don't agree with it, but I believe to enter an ESPN moment where it becomes a little bit more Americanized. I mean, I don't know, to make 4 quarters every 15 minutes, a quarter or something. I don't know. Something needs to change.
Yeah, I think that they would need to strongly consider either 3 periods or 4 quarters, maybe more timeouts if it was to go on one of our main channels. But I think one of the great things with streaming on OTT over the top networks like ESPN Plus is I think you can show it in its normal form and people will adapt to that. Rugby is on there. They didn't modify rugby dramatically for TV. They didn't do that for lacrosse. They haven't done that for other sports. But if you're going to get, I think what you're missing a little bit is if you look at the sports like cornhole and darts and dodgeball. Those are a little bit easier to produce and put on TV, particularly cornhole.
Yeah.
And granted, I would never watch that, but it costs next to nothing to put on TV.
Much harder with us.
In some respects, those companies have paid to be on TV. There's ways that they pay the networks, and then they have to sell the advertisement. They go out on a limb to sell the advertisement, vice ESPN selling the advertisement. Yeah. So that's another way. And then that spike ball. Have you seen that?
Yeah, of course.
Spike ball is the same way. The people behind that use it as an opportunity to sell all their equipment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that goes into those deals than you might think. Yeah. There's a reason why you're shaking your head and going, why is this on TV and handball isn't?
You know what? Maybe I should start shaking my head too and start looking exactly what they're doing and being successful, because I'm more of a Puritan handball believer. I like the sport the way it is. I enjoy the way it is, but I also am very honest with myself that something needs to be done, because when I see the other things being successful, I'm like, oh, it can't be. Something needs to be tweaked, or we're not presenting it the right way. So it's strange.
Well, the thing is, and this is something I've been thinking about for 20 plus years, the thing is the streaming capability, and I know I'd rather have it on ESPN and ESPN2 rather than ESPN Plus, but because you don't have to battle other sports to get on there, it's becoming feasible to do it. The other thing is the Europeans are starting to figure it out. Yeah. They're going to put some effort. You and I don't even have to do much to get it on TV. Barry Sift doesn't have to do much. It's going to happen. I know I've been saying this for a long time, but you and I have this conversation, a year from now. God, I sure hope it's on a better channel now. I really think either ESPN Plus or NBC. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen now.
Well, I hope so too, in a better channel, more available. But I'm going to go back to one thing. I believe you were one of the first ones to mention a reality handball show a while ago. You wrote about this, I believe. And you still up for it? Do you think that could be something that could generate some excitement?
Oh, sure. And I won't take the credit for this. Do you know when I first saw somebody mention it
Hmm.
was when Survivor was first on TV way back in the early 2000s. Somebody on a chat forum or something said it. And then they had the, what was it, the Ultimate Fighter
Yeah.
that the UFC has a show. And
Oh, yeah.
that's somebody said, hey, we could do this for handball. Then you had the Hard Knocks. So the idea was being bandied around, and then some folks with know-how
Yeah.
got behind it. And I think he hasn't fully elaborated on it, but I think Barry Siff was involved with that group back in 2016.
Yeah.
And they actually pitched it to NBC.
Uh-huh.
And the IHF paid for an NBC guy to go to the World Championships
Mm-hmm.
in I think it was in Paris. And, they showed him, handball up front. It didn't materialize, even though I think the concept that they had, bringing in some aging football players and basketball players, I don't think that would go anywhere. I think it would be wonderful television.
Yeah.
And I think it would, I think Europeans would love it. I think it would get subtitled and shown in other countries too. It would be a spectacle to watch. I don't think it's the solution to our national team,
Yeah.
but wow, that would be fun to watch.
Yeah. I guess that's what we're looking to do. Like they're looking to do is, spark that interest. And I mean, I know sometimes when I read comments of some of the videos posted about our games, and one of them was the Super Globe competition we went to, but that's still a good version of us. But the other ones, when we play national U.S. nationals, Europeans that are playing probably third league, fourth league, their comments are, "You guys are funny. This is not handball. Why are you guys so slow?" So I think about it. I'm like, oh my God, imagine a reality show like this. It will be funny and it will be exciting. But I think if we get TV time, it will be fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the promotion value would just be phenomenal. I mean, in theory, as expensive as those shows are, they could fund it, entirely.
Sure.
Maybe you get some celebrities to play, but get some actual guys with some potential. It could be interesting.
Yeah, I would love to watch whoever does it. So if you had $10 million to invest in handball, how and where would you invest it first?
Am I interested in making a profit, or am I being egalitarian just to help the sport in this country?
Well, it's your decision. It's your money.
Okay. I don't think I can make money with it. Do I have to spend on handball? I can spend on other things.
No, only in handball. That's it. You cannot
Okay.
spend a dime anywhere else.
I would be laser focused on developing our college game. I would pick. Don't get me wrong. I love our national teams. I want them to be competitive. I think 2024 is a bridge too far. I just don't think we're. I think I could spend a lot of money making us marginally better in time for 2024. I don't think I can make us good enough to beat our men's team, to beat Argentina or Brazil, or our women's team to beat Brazil.
Yeah.
I don't think even with $10 million, I could do that. So I would probably focus the majority of it on the college game. And we would definitely have a Final Four production for TV. I'd produce it with that money and seek to get it on TV. And at the same time, I would look at New York City and I would say, what college team? I'm going to hire Benny. I got $10 million. I'm going to hire you, and I'm going to make it your mission to make St. John's a team handball power.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the resources to do it. You're going to have a quality gym. You're going to be able to set up practices. You may even be able to recruit some players.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you the resources to make that happen. I'm going to have a league with good officiating.
Yeah.
So going to have to pay for that officiating. Going to have some specialized clinics for the best players in the college game, so that they would probably be meeting up at least once a month for a 3-day training camp with a really good coach. I'd probably find a really good coach doesn't have to be the super best coach, just somebody that can take them from a low level to a higher level. So it'd be twofold. I would work on improving the game. So I would get as few comments from those 3rd and 4th division people in Europe. So it would look more like handball.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I would really work on the marketing and production of that. And then if I had some extra money left over from all that, I would focus on some youth programs that have shown promise, like what Martin Belello is doing in San Francisco. I'd probably at the same time I'd say, Martin, hey, no more 10 hours a month or whatever the part-time job is. You're full-time.
Yeah.
And you have to pick one college in the, 2 colleges, how many colleges in the Bay Area, and you need to turn these into real handball programs.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, you can also spend some of that money on your youth program, because we need to start building that, the youth level up so that they can feed the colleges. Now, why that area? I just think it's the best bang for our buck.
Yeah.
And I don't want to split the money all over the place.
Yeah.
At the 2012 strategic planning session, Rick Adams from the USOC was there.
Yeah.
He's like a high level guy up and like the number 2 or number 3 guy. And he left that meeting. He told us one thing. He said, guys, you don't have the resources. Pick one thing and do that one thing really well. And then we can talk about, expanding and doing other things. And I think that's a good strategy at this point. Now, I know if I was on the national team and I heard this, I'd be like going, screw you, Ryan. I'm working my ass off. And you're not going to give us any money. Yeah. So you always have that thing tearing at you, because I don't like to see our national team have to pay to go on trips.
Yeah. Yeah.
So immediately I'd have to say, well, no, I got to set aside X number of dollars so that these people don't have to pay to go to a trip, so that, and you start having that $10 million that I was going to focus on start hemorrhaging, to other things, because they're the right thing to do. You've got to do it.
Yeah. But I agree with Rick Adams, right? You really, if you don't have resources or you have limited resources, you certainly have to stick to one thing, be the best you can be in that part, let the others follow, and then get to the next step, because ultimately it's the only way to success when you really have limited resources.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done that with our New York City Handball Club, so.
Yeah, ideally we would take advantage of clubs like yours to focus on an effort like that.
Yeah.
But also, I think some resources have to come with that ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So I know we're getting close to one hour, and don't want to take too much of your time. I know we can speak for days.
Hey, I love handball. I'll go get some lunch, dinner, and we can continue.
Yeah, we can do this all night long. So, who's your all-time favorite U.S. club?
Oh, it's got to be the Ventura County Condors.
Oh, yeah?
Before your time.
Yeah.
Hey, I drove 4 hours round trip to go practice with those guys. It was a great team. Friends with those guys today. The thing I liked about that team, and don't get me wrong, Benny, I like New York City. You guys are great. But we had some international guys on our team. But there wasn't enough of them that they took over the born and raised American nature of the club.
Yeah.
They had to kind of adopt to the type of guys that we were. And in some respects, a little bit like Nyack. It'd be like Nyack
Yes.
with 3 or 4, foreigners playing a role on the team. And it was just a really good group of guys. We had some younger guys that came up through the system. Denny Furco became an Olympian,
Yeah.
and a couple other guys that matured to the national team.
Yeah.
Really, there's no club like that right now in the U.S.
Yeah. Well,
And
I think obviously because such a foreign, not a foreign sport, but so many foreigners that live here that are becoming citizens or whatnot, they are the majority for sure. And I've never had a chance to play Condors, but I know Nyack has that mentality, always has, and I always appreciate it. And you got to have that ability to play against a true American mentality when they're good and they're tough. And we loved it. I mean, I think when we came in, when was it, 2007, and they were still sort of dominating. They were called Garden City, and our battles were brutal, bloody at all times, and it didn't matter because they thought, like, okay, we're gonna show them how tough we are, but they forgot that they're dealing with a different kind of European crowd because we are tough too, and we started getting serious battles, and of course, respect developed because of that, and our games became always exciting to watch. And now Nyack is in the process of rebuilding with all the guys who played in the national team, but they're mostly American born and bred, which is good, and I like that. That's what I like about the club system, because you build an identity, whatever the hell that is, you gotta have it, and to me that's important.
definitely, and for sure, we had an identity.
No, of course. I love the name Condors. I mean, why doesn't
Oh,
somebody?
it's the best. It's the best mascot.
Yeah.
On the front of the. Every time I wore my Condors T-shirt, somebody would try and buy it from me.
No, well,
It had like a friendly little bird,
yeah,
with his little beak,
not
throwing the
very
ball.
friendly in real life.
Yeah.
And so,
So,
who's your all-time favorite U.S. born player?
wow. That's kind of an awkward question, because I played with some of these people, so I don't really. I'll have to think about that a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of guys I respected, and I thought that they were really, really intense players. But I'm trying to, I'll go out on a limb, and I can't think of his name. Oh, God, he was my teammate. This is bad. Brian Jacobs, I think he was the deaf guy that played for us
Huh.
in '93, and it's driving me up the wall. I can't think of his exact name, but he was a deaf guy, so other folks will know him. He is the most intense guy I have ever played with in any sport. And
What position?
he played wing and circle, and wasn't a very big guy, but I don't care what drill we played or what drill we were doing in practice and what time of the practice was. I have never seen someone go 100% full out. And it would, we all like to think that we give 100% all the time, but we don't. And sometimes it would like piss you off. It's like going, dude, relax. And instead, you'd have to think, like, well, why am I saying that?
Yeah.
I should be doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Wasn't a very big guy, God, but he was the most intense guy I ever played with.
Mm. Well, I love those kind of guys. I personally, I mean, I don't go 100%, but if I'm any sort of situation, practice or whatnot, I enjoy really playing. I mean, I just no way of what am I there for otherwise?
Yeah. And then I'll give another guy, guy I played with just for his spectacular jumping ability. I don't know if you saw Derek Heath play before he had his
Yeah.
car accident. I joke about it, but that game we played in Sweden against Sweden, we every time we got a 9 meter, we set him up for a shot. And I swear to God, I heard a collective gasp in the crowd because it was such a, he would just jump so high and shoot over everybody.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I never had the opportunity to actually see him at that level. I played with him the last time he played. Actually, Nyack took him in Chicago, and they had Gary, and they had Jordy, and they had Tom, and they had all the guys. And that was the last time I saw him. But he was, first of all, at an old age, and secondly, recovering after his accident. And I have not seen him in his prime. So I just heard the stories from Richie saying like this guy, he can jump, touch the basketball rim with his foot. That's that's what Richie would tell us.
yes, and you know, he never got to the skill level that you'd like to see. Left and right passing and
Yeah,
1-on-1, he was pretty good. But by God, best jump shot, 9 meter jump shot, best in the world,
yeah.
my opinion.
And what about the your favorite or all-time favorite non-US player that played in the US national team? Not born US player.
Non-U.S. player.
Well, a US citizen but naturalized, not born American.
Ah, wow. Jeez. Oh, it's got to be you, Benny.
At my age 40,
You
when
know,
I played
let,
my first time,
let's give it to Richard Clues.
Richard Clues.
I don't know if on your team.
Yes.
I remember playing him back in 19. It's got to be either 87 or 88, and that guy is the strongest arms in the world. I remember playing circle and him clamping down on me, and I'm like going, I have no chance of spinning this guy. I am going nowhere. Didn't look like much of a player, but damn, he was just brutally strong there on the six.
I mean, even
So
up to this day, his arm is like it's unreal. We look at it, it's like, oh my God, Richie, how the hell do you have those arms? I mean, he would just still very, very strong up to this day.
I challenge even our young circles today. If you let him get a hold of you, you're going
No, you're
nowhere.
done. You're done. Yeah.
So I'm giving you some old school NYC credit here.
Good, good. I'll let him know. He will be very happy. He never forgets any games. I'm sure he remembers it. Like it's like he remembers every detail from 20, 30 years ago. So I'm sure.
Oh, it wouldn't have been just one game. It was like anytime I played with him, I would like go to the other side of the 6 meter line to get away from him.
Yeah. So obviously we're all locked in a way, and this would have been the week where we usually go to nationals regularly. So this year we have no idea what's going to happen. But in your opinion, what do you think? Should USA Team Handball host the nationals, even with limited clubs, or not?
I would say if the clubs are willing to travel, even if it's limited clubs, let's just say it was like NYC, San Francisco, Nyack, and Chicago,
Yeah.
and you guys were willing to travel somewhere, I'd say, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Maybe even, try and do a streaming of it. If you guys are willing to do that, hey, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But I totally understand why folks might not want to travel, and even if it's limited clubs, maybe it's kind of a damper because that's one of the things people like is seeing all their old friends and stuff, and so you wouldn't have that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I was discussing this with a few of the teammates, and I said, where would you guys hold it if we did it actually? And Vlado, our pivot, Vlado, he said like, oh, why don't we do it in Myrtle Beach? And immediately in my head, I was like, why didn't I think about that? Because I sort of erased it after being there for 3 years in a row. And I thought, okay, we're done with that place. But then you think about it, it's South Carolina. It's open already. The facility is probably empty, and it's going to be either cheap or free to get. It's not that
yeah.
hard to get for most part of the people, and it's cheap. Um, and I'm like, that actually could be a good option. I mean, I haven't brought this up yet to Barry and the USA Team Handball, and I'm sure they're thinking all the options. But I mean, what do you think? Would you go to Myrtle Beach?
I probably wouldn't,
Hmm.
not at this juncture. Um, I think it's going to take a while before I'm going to be like in the traveling mode,
Yeah.
around the country. And like I said, it'd be fewer people there. So I'd be less. I wouldn't say for sure I wouldn't, but I'd certainly be less inclined to.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't stand in the way of it happening.
Yeah.
Shoot, why not?
Yeah. I mean, I'm dying to play handball. Actually, it's been 2.5 months of not doing anything. It just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right for the
Well,
first time.
and that's a whole thing. It'd take you guys a while to get back into playing shape.
Yeah. Well, we never were in good playing shape, but N- yeah, now it's going to be literally the way we are. It just potentially more injuries. Um, so okay, just one more, few more trivial questions. Like, who do you think is the best player in the world for you currently?
Currently,
Yeah,
offensively, it's Mikkel Hansen. That's clear. But as a former defensive specialist, I'm like, you know, there's more to the game than just offense.
yeah,
But clearly he's the best. He's the best player offensively. And then if you're looking all around, I would say it might be Saguson because he's not as good as offensively as Hansen, but he also plays decent defense.
yeah.
Dugnak's pretty good still too. Getting a little older. Um,
I can't
so
believe you didn't mention Nikola Karabatic.
I think he's the greatest of all time, but he's certainly has slipped the last couple years.
That injury kind
I
of.
mean, yeah, that injury, and then you get to that point when you start to get to your mid 30s. Is it the injury, or is it because you're starting to get a little old? And so it'll be interesting if he can totally shake off that injury. It was going to be interesting to see the Olympics this summer. So maybe he's looking for the Olympics next year and have
Yeah,
one last swan song. But
that's
if you're
true.
looking full career, he's the GOAT in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what do you think if we changed? Well, first of all, if you were to change one rule in handball, what would it be?
Um, I would look at some sort of shot clock,
That's
and I'm not
happening.
sure. I'm not sure exactly how I would implement it. You'd have to do some experiments, but yeah, I would want some sort of shot clock in the game. And boy, we could do a whole hour on how that would be implemented and some of the problems that would ensue. But I grew up with a shot clock in basketball, and I think sometimes handball gets a little bit. Uh, they get a little chip on their shoulder and say, "We're not doing anything that basketball's doing.
Yeah.
Damn it, we're on our own sport.
Yeah.
We're not copying basketball." And I'm like going, I think it works. It works for basketball, but you're going to have to have all, and it would work for handball, but you're going to have all kinds of. It opens a Pandora's box of little rules in terms of how you how you time it, how long would it be? Would you restart it? Would you stop it?
Yeah.
It it's complicated, but I really think that there should be some more experimentation in adopting of it.
Well, I remember when we were in Saudi Arabia, IHF did not the shot clock, but they showed basically the clock, and they would show us that we have 5 passes left before the pass to play ended. So we were aware of it. We didn't have to look at the ref, and it was great. So I thought that was a great addition, and not at some point you start counting like, okay, 1, 2, 3, or ask a ref, how many do I have? Like this way, just look at the clock, say, okay, I have 3 more passes. I know what to do. Everyone knows what's going on. So that's one step. But the shot clock it would be interesting, actually. It would add a very different sense of urgency for everyone.
Can you imagine the NBA if instead of a shot clock, they would have a ref raise his, it's nearing the end of the game. The ref raises his hand, passive play call. Yeah. And then what would they do? Like 5 passes? If you look at it from that perspective, it just seems they've got good refs. They seem to do a smart job on it for the most part. In terms of when they start to call it, not always, and that can be really frustrating.
Yeah.
When you can see how the offense and the defense are trying to manipulate the officials.
Yeah.
If it's a clock, there's no manipulation. Yeah. Everybody knows it. You just deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in my head, that's also a question for you. This is what I want to do, but what do you think? 13-meter goals to count for 2 points. Yes or no?
It would be interesting from the standpoint because where you would see it, I think if you adopted that, is you would see it on fast breaks. And that's where it could be a little interesting because I don't think you would see it much in an actual game. But I could see a fast break, contemplating whether do I go for 2, go for 1. But I don't think it would change the nature of the regular game. I don't know if it'd be good. It'd be another interesting thing to try whether you would see, just like in basketball, how at first it just opened up the floor. Yeah. So you could do more things inside, but then it turned into like, that's all we're shooting now. I don't think you would ever see that in handball because it just would not be effective. So the question is, would it be something that would open up play? But really, I don't see that as a big problem right now. I don't see handball becoming too physical and brutal down low. I think there's a good mix of play out top, I don't think we need a new rule to kind of open things up yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, obviously, it's not a significant change of the game, but I always love the idea of that excitement where, let's say you're down by 1 goal and all of a sudden you get a steal and you're going that fast break and you take the risk. I mean, still shooting from 13 meters, even if you're alone, it's not that easy. So go for it. And 30 seconds left, you might go up by 1 goal and just changes the mentality of it. Becomes more.
Oh, it would be an exciting play. Yeah. And the goalie would be like going, is he going to try, to shoot from 13? Boy, that would be, from that context, that would be really interesting.
I think I'm going to do that one day. Like if I'm going to organize some sort of a event here, I'm going to make that rule. That's going to be, okay, we're doing this. You score from 13 meters. There's going to be a line there and it counts for 2. I just want to see what happens during the game. How many people will try or how effective would it be? It would be fun. So, I mean, obviously we have many, many things to talk, but I also have to go feed my son soon. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? Anything you want to share?
No, I think it was a great discussion, and liked how you mixed up the controversial topics with some free-flowing topics. So, not that I think they should be controversial,
They're not.
but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and maybe I'll return the favor and have you on my podcast in the not too distant future. Maybe we'll be talking about the Quarantine Island U.S. National Championships.
Hey, I'm ready, and I appreciate you finding the time, speaking to me. I know you are always doing these interviews, and I love them. I as much time I have, I listen to them, and I'm glad you joined in. Again, this whole thing, it's not going to continue for too long for me. It's because I have time, and I just wanted to have conversations with people that care about handball, that I know, and we can share certain topics that maybe a lot of people don't know. And in this time, I believe that you are one of the people that could share many stories, and I'd like to share our side of the story because we're connected to handball forever because of this.
Absolutely. Always love talking handball. Anytime, Benny.
Thank you, John. Have a good one. We'll be in touch.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.